This is part 2 of Neuroscience Talk with Kata. She talks about memory, and it's fascinating how children learn and how we memorize. And you will find that out in that video. Please, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Like and subscribe and make little comment like this. The channel go up in the algorithm and there's more views. Also, I've done a neuroscience pack. I hope you really enjoy it. It's all to do with how children learn. There's activities and it's in the description. Thank you very much for your support and see you in the podcast. In your personal experience, how do you see neuroscience and education collaborating to create more effective learning environments for young children? So that's something I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm looking forward to your answer. And thank you so much again, Kata.
So I would start there. Thank you. I hope you will have here maybe some follow-up questions to me as well. So just feel free to ask me these, because I might forget something that could be interesting to explore. So for this question, I think the most important that I think a researcher called Williams raised, that we need to also understand whether research-based education will give the direction or research-informed tutorials will lead the educational path. Because so there is so much debate about the role of neuroscience in education. And now I know that Harvard and the biggest universities, they do educational neuroscience PhD programs. So the question remains whether how much it can or has to influence the educational field. So I think it's out of question that it will influence in either way. And clearly, we can't just pick up certain studies and start rewriting our educational directives or instructions now, because it will eventually lead to chaos. So I like this expression, research informed, so it means that we take into account now what we know about the children's brain. One of my favorite is the topic that it has been known for, like, I don't know, minimum 20 years. I would say that adolescents, they can't get up. No, their hormone level is completely altered. So they need to sleep in. They need to work, start later, and still this is nowhere to see in a daily education system. So they still go in Hungary 8 o'clock into the school and start their life at 8 o'clock, when they are not able to do that. And on the top of this, they are staying now like long hours. They're like 10 hours, like a full working day. So definitely it alters their mood, their behavior, and etc. The other, I think, interesting point here, that neuropsychology has been and had been existed. So a typical development always showed the way that there are other ways with children. How, for example, if we stick to the young children environment, so how it's important, for example, the role of the mother in the very early years, and when they reach to the preschool environment, see, they're still looking for this tight, close relationship, for example, and how, though, they're able to develop certain skills on their own. How playing with toys or educating them in a playful way is the first thing that we should acknowledge finally. So they will not learn as kids can learn now in elementary school, but that they need to be supported in their playful environment. So, and then we got to the point of the environment question, how a school should be set up for this kind of playful, I can reach my limits and then overarch my limits and develop new skills in my daily existing. So that's what young learners do now. So every day it's a new day. Every day they want to be motivated. They want to be learning things. So you can't stop that growth with just because it's convenient from like classroom rules or certain limits. When it comes to like young learners, for example, cognitive development, we know about this now. We know how the attention develops, and I had the luck to work with one of the best researchers, I think, on this topic in the field. So cognitive developmental psychology, how attention is forming, or not just attention, we call them executive functions, or we call them cognitive control. So how emotional control and cognitive control, they interplay, right? So all the tasks, they should be designed based on what we already know about this field, right? So we know that the child learns to discriminate objects first based on shape, colors. So Montessori education already does this to teach certain kind of cognitive development point of view specific tasks, when you need to select certain things. And these skills needs to be trained, as apparently it works with neural networks. So the key points of neuroscience, I think, now is how, and what they investigate is the neural networks, how they are connected. And from educational point of view, it's more important the functional role of these connections. We call them also hubs, right? That's, I think, also very interesting point for future.
This is great. Thank you so much. It's a big question. And I think the fifth question, I'm going to skip it because you just answered it, which was, I'll just repeat it just in case. Could you provide specific examples of how you apply insights from brain development research in real life classroom settings? I think you just mentioned Montessori, sorting shapes. So unless
okay,
you
if you want,
to,
yeah, I still have something else, but
oh yes,
you
please,
can,
yes.
whichever you feel.
Okay,
Because,
I'll ask the question again.
Mhm.
So could you provide specific examples of how you apply insight, from brain development research in real classroom settings?
So this is definitely related to the previous question. I would extend a bit on the fact that, for example, memory. We discovered during all these years, or better say, eminent researchers, they discovered that memory is a tricky system. So we have explicit and implicit memory, for example. Implicit memory is all the habit formation, all the skills that you learn. Or, for example, with priming or classical conditioning, you can all build up all these memories that you need to know. So the most famous example is HM. I'm not sure you know the case, and he lost most of his memory due to an accident. And in this case, the implicit system remained intact. So he could still use certain functional areas of the memory, and these will never be lost. So that's why when you learn to ride a bicycle, you will always be able to probably ride a bicycle. And if we think how many things we use on a daily basis that we use with the same memory rather than the explicit system, which is based on facts and knowledge. So the difference here for young learners is huge. So motoric learning, so all kind of activity through motor development will help them to acquire knowledge, even vocabulary, right? So if you think how you can learn a drama play without any effort really when you are that young, right? And then you will build up those vocabularies in your mind. However, we try to skip these playful methods, I think, and then we just focus on that the memory needs to do, they need to learn this, they need to learn that. But in this environment, only a fraction of the knowledge they can just acquire. So I would put a lot of emphasis on this, that now we have well-known perception, visual perception, memory, language, obviously, that they work, and they are developed in a way that requires different environment.
This is really interesting. I'm fascinated with the motor skills, because it's true when you are in movement, and that's why Maria Montessori in particular, movement was very much part of her educational philosophy. So because human being needs to move in order to touch, move, look, and to use all our senses. That was really at the core of her philosophy, and so that's
like
really
music
fascinating.
teaching.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
I interrupted.
No,
Music
no.
teaching, which is a big part of Montessori education as well, or any alternative pedagogy, I think.
Mm.
And we ignore this, I think. So in the public education, yeah, this is a huge part of. Obviously, you still find schools and specializing in music education, which is good. So you still so rhythm. For example, I just read an article about dyslexia. So how dyslexia is still not known what causing dyslexia or dysgraphia. But what is now obvious in modern research or neuroscience research that rhythmicity has a role in it, right? So yes, rhythms need to be learned or need to be practiced, let's say, because a child has a natural ability to perceive rhythm, and we can't, Maria Montessori talks about sensitive periods, and so that's the key. When you pass these sensitive periods, then you will not be able to learn. Like languages, they say that by the time you're adolescent, your ability to learn another language is past. So actually, giving the opportunity to kids to learn multiple languages when they are young, even if they are not naturally bilingual, it's the key that later on you can learn more languages. But if this window is closed, then you might not be able to learn languages. And I see many examples between adults, obviously, among the adults, sorry,
This
for this.
I love this topic. I could speak about this for hours.
Oh, yeah.
I
Okay,
think,
good.
I love this.